But I always have one of my favorite Prince stories is that way back in '79, we kept seeing this guy on stage, standing behind me, standing behind the drummer, standing behind the guitars, in a lot of different cities. And we saw him again in this city, and saw him again in this city, and over here. And we were signing autographs somewhere in Detroit, somewhere, I don't know where it was. And back then they had cassettes. That was
Yeah.
the thing back then. And when I said, "Oh man, hey Cherokee," that's Jeff Bond. We called him Cherokee. Hey Cherokee, isn't this the guy that we keep seeing? He said, "Yeah, who is this guy? Somebody named Prince. Prince. Who is that?" We didn't even know who he was.
Right.
I didn't. I didn't know who he was. That's my Prince story. He was scoping us out, man. He was standing right behind me one night somewhere. I'm like, that's just the guy there. There he is again. Yeah,
Yeah, he
but
was a sponge.
he did. He soaked up a lot of P-Funk.
Right.
Gravy, y'all. Let's just call it gravy, man. From he was soaking it up from the bass players, man, to standing behind Mike Hampton and just listen to everything he was doing, man.
Yeah.
I was just happy to be somewhat of an influence at some point.
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe he took something you did on those four keyboards you had going.
Maybe,
Back
I
then
know
it
he
was
stood behind me.
yeah.
I would turn around and to wipe the sweat off my face, and behind me anybody might be standing by me. A lot of notable people standing behind me or somewhere over there by the guitars.
Right.
A lot of famous people would be up on stage, and you had to be somebody to be even
Right. Yeah.
up here with us. So people like Bobby Brown. I turned around, he was there. Gosh, it's hard to even remember all of the people, man, but
I want to ask you, I think you may have played on a good friend of ours, one of her records, Taja Seville.
I did. I remember doing something with Taja with the Basement Boys. I don't remember the track though. That
Oh,
was so
okay.
long ago.
I'm gonna do
I
my
don't remember.
homework. I'm gonna find out.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
I know the Taja Seville was um, the Basement Boys. They were a big fan of Taja Seville's. Teddy Douglas. He was one of her biggest fans, and it was a thrill for him to even be producing something of hers. And of course, I was called in to help with that production also. I remember the name,
Yeah,
but not the track.
she visited our studios in Fairfield, Connecticut, and for like 4 hours we just spun tracks, and she was
Mm.
great. Yeah, she's from Detroit originally, or she's making home
Oh,
there.
is she?
Or she's
Okay.
making home in Detroit, but she lived in Minneapolis. She worked with Prince.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Prince. Yeah, I mean, I didn't get a chance to work with Prince or meet him or anything like that, but I could have. I could have. Joe. One thing about me, man. I'm gonna tell you, and I tell a lot of folks, I've never really been starstruck by anyone.
Okay.
I always appreciate and honor people's accomplishments. I consider myself a peer.
Mhm.
Throughout my entire career, I've never asked for an autograph. I've never asked to be in a picture. If we happen to wind up in a picture, that's okay.
Right. Yep.
But they were all going up to Paisley Park with George and other people, and I was just always had to be somewhere else for some reason. I just could never make it up there to Paisley Studios, man. But I missed out on that opportunity.